I'm Pastor D.L. Barnett of Foundations Bible Church, and this is A Prophecy Point.
So today I decided that it's time for a prophecy point. We haven't done one in a while. I've been kind of waiting. We've been covering a lot of that, so a basic discussion. So the first half of today's message is about the things that have happened in the last week or two, so you are aware, and you are not allowed to be asleep. And you have to watch because the Lord has told me to be a watchman on the wall and warn, and to make sure we're looking at what's going on so we can use them as tools to point people to Jesus and the gospel, to salvation, to the future, not the present. Because the present doesn't get to win all the time. The future will win, and that future is in Christ alone. So today's prophecy point is straightforward and to the point. This will probably push us over the edge on some of the things. And by the way, in the announcements you'll see there's some changes coming and should be here in fruition by the end of Monday, actually. So I'll talk about that. But prophecy point is first is, I think I showed you this picture before. I'm sure you've seen the old ziggurats, the Tower of Babel, if you will, where it was man's way of trying to make a name for themselves and reach to the heavens. You can see it in the pyramids, you can see it in the Mayan temples, you can see it all over the place from ancient traditions, the Aztecs, and the like. But it's still very visible even in the East. So this would be a modern day rendition of it. I want you to notice that you have fires and lights and glowing reaching to the sky and literally cranes setting everything up. This Tower of Babel is what everybody knows today as the New World Order. This isn't a hidden conspiracy, though you're made fun of for saying that. They're wide open, driving as fast as they can with the throttle clicked as far hard back as it can, where the term probably whiskey throttling comes into play when you wreck a snowmobile or a motorcycle. They are ready to put this all together. And the tentacles, as I say, of Leviathan, or maybe you've seen it in your Pirates of the Caribbean, Kraken type ideas of the tentacles coming around, are all playing in one big agenda. And this is where we need to understand that that is a false light that is meant to hide the truth. In fact, today's prophetic verse is probably not what you're going to expect. You're probably thinking something from Revelation, or you're thinking something from the minor prophets, or Ezekiel, or Daniel, or Isaiah. Though there's a little bit of Leviticus in today's prophecy point. It actually comes from Romans 1:18. It says the wrath of God is going to be revealed from heaven against all ungodliness and unrighteousness of men. But the main point is, who by their unrighteousness suppress the truth? Suppressing the truth is the way of things today. It's really hard to even tell the difference between truth and fact, or fiction and falsehood, right? At least as far as I'm concerned, I think it's difficult. And so we've been studying this, paying attention to it, watching it unfold. When I looked up the term dark winter, and I've told you about this when Biden mentioned that in his, campaigning speeches, dark winter actually refers to a 2001 or 2002 actual viral operation that they planned and tried and played out on the masses a long time ago. So this whole COVID thing is not brand new. It's old school methodology of literally mind control and thought control and power control and health control to get you afraid and put you in your place. Dark winter actually isn't just when we have your December 21st solstice and it's the darkest day and it's cold outside. It's actually meant to push you into a cultic way of thinking where you're going to submit to whatever it is because fear is driving you. Now, I don't care whether you believe COVID is real or not. I don't care if you wear a mask or you don't. What I care about is the fact that what they're doing with it is exploiting the world all over the place. The dark winter is not the actual virus. It's the reasoning behind what they're doing. the people. All right? I don't care whether you like the idea of a vaccine or not either. That's not the point. The point is, if you were to just take a 1,000-foot view or a 10,000-foot view assessment of the situation, we are headed into a darker time, and Biden was right, and it's intentional. Okay? This is a real deal. We are in complete transition here. And this is how I know it's more than just viral, healthcare control, freak you out kind of stuff. Because of the next things that fall in line is one of the other tentacles, if you will, of the situation. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter have all taken their own fact-checking realities of falsehood and imposing it on people to shut them up. I don't care whether you like Trump or not, voted for him or not, this round or last round. That doesn't matter to me anymore. Those days are gone. You know what the issue is? They won't even let the current president say his side. You know what that means? That means you will have one day not have a say on your own side as we the people. The Constitution's been thrown out the stinking window. All right? We have legislation that's supposed to protect us from things like this, the antitrust issues, and they're not allowed to censor. We have the stinking First Amendment, and it's being destroyed before your very eyes. And they don't care anymore. It's not a game to them. They already got us. You know why? Because we let that Python spirit lead us for so long with this crazy technology that we don't even know how to use it for proper ways, and now we got ourselves into a place of our whole lives are on these things, and now we don't know what to do. But I can tell you, conservatives are being silenced. Christians are going to be silenced in the process. And now I just read 3 more new articles just this morning that already says the next platforms are doing the same thing. And by the way, just so you're aware of the other side of the agenda, besides silencing us, they can try. That won't really happen. But what they're really going to do is they're pushing you towards all the other apps and all the other tech that is controlled by Bitcoin and blockchain technology. You know what that means? The currency we pay now is going to be all digital, and we've moved to Revelation 13, can't buy or sell without it. And by the way, Amazon, Apple, and Google all have blocked any of the new ones, like Parler. They want to stop things like MeWe. They want to stop things like Rumble. They want to stop all of those ones that allow you to say what you want to say and shut you up. That means if you have any phone tied to Google or any phone tied to Apple, your phones are now devices of the devil to delude you and take you away from the truth. You realize that? You literally can not go on today and go get Parler from those places. Parler's just the conservative side of Twitter by itself. That's all it is. They don't want you to talk. Okay? I know liberals, though we totally disagree in ideology, this is making them just as sick. This is making secular people just as upset. Something's seriously wrong in America. And you know why? Because the monopolization of Google and Apple over all the tech. If you have a Samsung phone, a Motorola phone, an iPhone, an iPad, an LG phone, any one of those, you either have a Google.com email address or a Gmail address, or you have an Apple ID, right? Guess what? You got a little bit of 666 going on in your life and you don't even know. Amen. Doesn't mean that you've given yourself to the Antichrist yet, because it's not religious, but it's this stinking close. People worship their screens more than they worship God. I guarantee it. And I'll say it's all of us too. All you got to do is actually, your phone will tell you this. I mean, open it up. Why don't you look at your social media time? There's a little special graph on each one of your smartphones that tells you how much time you've spent on social media, productivity, creativity, how many hours spent, how much data you use. You can see for yourself what owns you and what doesn't. I may have to tell you that. You can figure it out yourself. Okay? If they're going to suppress any truth and shut you up, which we, like I told you, we've been kicked off of YouTube before. We've had Facebook fact checkers, even though it was direct quotes you were wrong and missing context. This is a direct quote. This is real, okay? This should scare the living daylights out of every American, no matter what side you're on, whether you're a believer or an unbeliever. This should scare the living daylights out. Impeachment. Okay, so we already went through the first one. We know that hasn't happened. Why in the world, with 2 weeks left, you're going to impeach a president? First you get him off Twitter, then you get him off Facebook, then you shut him up on everything else, and then you're going to throw impeachment articles, in fact, by his own people being betrayed and turned over. Now, I don't know what to tell you about this, but we are headed in, if this is happening at the highest level, you darn well know what's happening on our level. This isn't about liking the president at all. From our perspective of what I'm saying, they're just using this to silence the ability for conservatives to win an election later. They're just trying to keep him from being able to run again in 2024. Whether you want him there or not, it doesn't matter. The point is, they're controlling your voting capability, and real voter suppression is happening through this kind of garbage. Not the fake stuff with the wanting voter IDs and letting illegals vote and all that sort of stuff. This should scare you. This should scare you. Let's get a little closer to home. Minnesota Department of Education. Governor Walz recently, if you don't know this, every 10 years they have to change, and I saw this on Wall Builders if you didn't hear it. I wanted to research it to make it was true. Dave Bartlett and Rick Green talked about this, so I'm like, yeah, they're way smarter than me, so I'm going to see what they're talking about. Every 10 years, they change curriculum standards. I'll bet you if you talk to some of the social studies teachers, they're not real happy about this, by the way. Social studies standards are to be viewed through the lens of honoring the, I don't know how to say it first of all, I know how to say the quote, okay? Native Americans. I have no problem with that. I mean, they were here first. I think they got a real raw end of the deal. I actually always loved those people groups. You know I was coming here. You know, I'm from immigrants, so I don't have a problem with people naturalizing and all that stuff. But God did something over that time frame, whether we like it or not. But they want to run it through just their perception. There's more than the Native American perception in this world. There's the European, there's the American colonies, there's African Americans and Black Americans that were brought here. There's way more than just one people group perspective in our society. Okay? I don't have a problem with them wanting to talk more about that, but I have a problem with what they're leaving out because of it. 39 benchmarks addressing this, how the pendulum is swinging out of balance to only that old look of system of oppression idea. It pushes out World War I, World War II, communism, socialism, the Pledge of Allegiance, and the Holocaust. They want to get rid of the American Revolution. They want to get rid of all of those things. So wherever they add, they have to take away from. They're erasing the American-European colonization part of our history and literally the establishment of America as a legal, independent nation in our stinking public school system. I am not happy about this. You know how many teachers are probably hurting because of this? Because now they're not even going to get to teach the truth to their kids anymore. And guess what? This is probably going to go through. Has anything gone any conservative way in Minnesota in the last few years? We have a problem, don't we? We have a problem. It's not that it's wrong to teach these things. It's wrong to leave out history. This is straight from a Marxist playbook. Let's erase the history of said country and reestablish a new one. You have the new Tower of Babel. We're going to move you to a world view of all this, not a national sovereign view of all this. If you read about Hitler and the Holocaust from a German perspective across seas versus an American perspective or a rest of the world perspective, or from a communist versus a democratic, proper constitutional perspective, a freedom perspective, and a control perspective, you're going to see two very different histories. They're moving towards their way and nobody else's way. And they're silencing us in the process. And literally now the next generation is going to miss out on all the stuff that I learned and you've learned and everything else. And this is straight from the Minnesota Department of Education. This is not me just going, oh, I'm mad at the public schools because they have a bad agenda. No, they actually do now. It's far beyond the social mores. In fact, if you get online, you can find a PDF that states exactly what the benchmarks are. Actually said under there's the problems of capitalism and colonialism, and like it was a problem that we call it as a problem that we're a capitalistic society. Governor Walz then moved into, that was suppressing the truth. Now here's suppressing the truth of what his agenda is. He sends a letter this week, specifically to the legislative branch, saying he will give up all of his executive order power right now, drop the peacetime emergency issue, if you'll make everything I've done law. What? This is literally true. I'm going to show you the letter. He's using the lack of constitutional separation of powers. The emergency's over. We know that already. 99% and higher survive, even COVID. I'm not saying it's not real. I'm just saying the survival rate's 1,000 times higher than the death rate. Okay? This is proven even by the CDC and the government numbers. Okay? By worldwide numbers, as a matter of fact. By the medical professionals. He wants to say statewide mask mandate has to come to law, written in our legislation, not just a temporary peacetime emergency. That's not right. That's not good. Because if they can get you to do that, and I know I've shared the occultic connection to wearing a mask, known or unknown, for right reasons or wrong reasons, it's to get us to silence down and moving into transition to get us used to something simple. You get pre-programmed to accepting something simple that's not necessary all the time, you're going to end up accepting something big and bad that's really bad for the long term. That's the issue behind the mask. It's not the science and all that garbage that is out there and the differences of opinion. That's not the real point of it. That's the problem. He says right here, and I have some underlines, to ensure an orderly end of peacetime emergency, when it's no longer needed, there's a caveat, safely and effectively distributing the vaccine until everyone has access to them, means you're going to get them. Begin to work with enacting into law the core provisions of the emergency response that we've been keeping Minnesota safe with. Do you know what that language is? This is really simple. What I've done, you make law, I'll back off. Well, if it's made law, guess what happens? Guess what we're controlled by? An unbalance of power within our own state. This very well could be right around the corner, guys, where the government and the governor is tyrannically controlling what we're doing. Through law. So they can come in and brown shirt us and say, it's law, you better have it on. Okay? They're already doing this in other countries. The UK, already doing it in Australia, they're already doing it in London. People are getting ripped out of their homes. In New York, they're setting up COVID camps, literally called COVID camps, to re-educate you. Just like for peace and safety, as the scriptures say. This is for your safety, like the Nazis used to say. I'm telling you, it's not all the little issues that are leading there with the tentacles. It's the power behind the tentacle that's driving it. That's the issue. There's a darker agenda than all that stuff. That's what's going on, guys. This will be needed to facilitate the wind down of the peacetime emergency. That's nice language to say, when you do this, I'll let it go. That's really what that means. Here they are, common sense measures to ensure that businesses continue to provide safe environments. So we're going to control how you run your business. Increase protection for workers from unsafe conditions. So we're going to go after you if you raise concerns. And then you tell them, hey, this is our business, not yours. You can stay and work or you can leave. So now all of a sudden you can't fire an insubordinate worker. Right? Requirements for wearing face masks in public indoor spaces and indoor businesses. So everywhere you go, you have to have one. Requirement means it has to happen. Requirement isn't just, maybe, or if it's in your own cognizance. I'll explain the biblical reason why this is garbage here in a little bit. But this is what he wants to put into law. So, I was talking with Kip, and he heard a lesson on this, and I got really interested. We went over it together in a quick form and to understand it. So I did a breakdown of it so you guys can understand. Okay, if there's a bald head or a bald forehead, so somebody like me, in some translations, it would say a beard or a bald head or on the head. It's talking about a wound that has been put on the head either by force or by some type of disease. Okay? So we're not talking about some internal viral bacterial infection. We're talking about an external infective viral infection, first and foremost. Okay? This is the only time, besides the spiritual reason for putting a veil on in the scriptures. That's because people can't handle the glory of God for some reason. Here's the deal. It breaks out on his head. He gets this reddish, swelling, white thing on his head. Maybe it's a boil, maybe it's infection, maybe it's skin cancer, or leprosy. Okay? The guy's leprous. He has a skin disease of some sort. Some leprosy has nothing at all to do with actual infected diseases, and some does. Some causes growth. It's basically Old Testament cancer is really what leprosy really is. That's really what it's talking about. Cancer. Okay? And leprosy, the disease itself. Hansen's disease, I think it's called. Okay, you look it up. The priest must pronounce him unclean. His disease is on his head. Okay? So the spiritual implications are obvious. Your thought process is really messed up and you're sinful. Okay? That's really what a lot of the Old Testament law was, the point about the morals being messed up, the heart being messed up, the sins are there. Okay? It was about you're standing before God's unclean and each other's unclean. That's really all the Old Testament Mosaic covenant is about, is the conditions of, if you're God's, you shouldn't act like everybody else. Okay? That's the point. Right? Well, this guy literally has a disease and they say so. So, what they do, so you understand what leprosy is from a biblical point of view, it means literally to whip, punish, or criticize somebody or cause of a wide or great affliction. Okay, let's just call COVID like leprosy. It's a great affliction on several facets of society in the world, right? Economically, health, mental health, those sorts of things. Be stricken with leprosy, a chronic infectious disease caused by a mycobacterium affecting especially the skin, peripheral nerves, and characterized by the formation of nodules, or cancers, or macules, or your zits, if you will, or giant boils, if you will. That enlarged strand accompanied by loss of sensation, so it also attacks the neurological parts of who you are. And then it even eventually leads to paralysis, wasting of the muscle, and deformities happen. Okay? This is bad stuff. Okay? And a moral or spiritually harmful influence. Okay? That's what it means. The word disease is different, but related. A blow, affliction, plague, sore spot, wound, stricken. Okay? So we're talking about either a blow to the head got infected, you got MRSA, or you got leprosy or whatever disease this is. Alright? Both of them are different. The scourge and the blow. And by the way, that means the scourge, because whip, punishment, and criticize is part of it. Plagues are part of God's reality to get us pointed in the right direction. That's also part of this whole thing. Alright? Leviticus 3:45-46 says, the leprous person who has the disease shall wear torn clothes and let the hair of his head hang loose. And he shall cover his upper lip and cry out, unclean, unclean. Okay, you know what that means? You rip off a piece of clothes and put on a mask. Okay? He'll remain unclean only while he has the disease, and he'll be alone. So let's mask up and let's quarantine for a short period of time, social distance, right? In the Bible. Okay? So I'm not saying all those were completely wrong. I want you to understand this. He'll be outside the camp, so don't be in the middle of the community, stay in your own little circle. This makes sense. But what they're missing is as long as he has the disease. Okay? Biblical-based mandates and common sense. The diseased one is to mask up, not everybody else. This is biblical. Okay? The diseased one is the social distance, stay home and stay safe. Not all. Only the sick people. And by the way, for all the rest of history, this is what they did for the most part. Even in the Spanish flu era, but they did wear masks for a short period of time, and the disease waned, they took them off. And mitigation measures are only to be temporary, not permanent. Everything that he's doing is completely unbiblical. Everything Governor Walz is doing is completely unbiblical. Everything that our President-elect Biden is planning to do to America is unbiblical from this point of view when it comes to our pandemic. Okay? Biblically speaking. So you don't get to argue with this as a Christian. You don't get to throw this out because you don't like what it says. Or because modern science says something different. Has modern science got everything completely right about COVID thus far? Absolutely not. Have they got things right about transgenderism? Absolutely not. Have they got things right about mental illnesses? Absolutely not. I'm not saying it's all wrong with what they do and work hard at, but I'm saying a lot of it is based on human theory, not God's theories. I know I will upset people with this particular section, but it's true. And by the way, just to show you the difference between being sick and having a plague, in those days Hezekiah became sick and was at the point of death. Hezekiah was told by God, "You're going to die before you see the house in order." He begs God to keep him alive, he stays alive. Not only did he have the worst son, the worst king ever, that was the most wicked man that ever ruled Israel in Manasseh, he also recovered from his sickness. Okay? The old man recovered from his sickness. Now, I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but you all know who's been older, who's been younger, who's had COVID, and who hasn't. Right? If you're here, that means you're alive and you survived. Right? Most of it. Might be a little brain foggy, have a few residual headaches. Might be a little weak. But you've recovered from the sickness. Sick is chala. It's everywhere in the Bible. It means to be worn out, afflicted and weak, to have, it can also mean a flattering stroke, like somebody's making you sick and swoon, like, "Oh, they love you so much." Besieged, diseased, grieved by a grief could make you sick to your stomach. I'm sure you've all been sick to your stomach from grief from time to time. An infirmity. I mean, it means more than just one idea of a plague. It literally means a temporary sickness or trouble that you're having. Okay? Huh. Even for the fainting, a woman in travail. Oh, the night shining armor comes and saves her. Well, biblically speaking, being sick with a short-lived survivable virus, though partially related to a plague, it is not the same as contracting a long-lived viral disease. It's not the same. Why would we treat it that way? Why would we treat it that way? Because the dark winter agenda is not about COVID and health and safety. It's about control and socialism and tearing down America and the economy. Because everything that they've touched from COVID has very little to do with stopping the disease. The vaccine you have been lied to about, and I'm not going to go into the nuances, it does not prevent the disease or COVID. It only, I'm telling you this one more time, only lessens the symptoms like regular COVID. So if you have COVID and you get the vaccine, because you're afraid of it, it's on you. I'm never doing it. But if you guys want to, go for it. But I'm telling you, you'll still get it. And they're saying 100% of the vaccines, if you get 100% strength of it, you have 100% side effects. 80% less side effects, but every one of them has side effects. And they're actually saying most of them are getting the same issue of 3 to 5 days of sick, lose your taste, all the symptoms of it, and they come out of it. So what are you getting? You're getting COVID. And just so you're aware, even though I know they are saying it's not the same flu, just look at how many flu numbers are here and how many COVID numbers are here. And just look at how many deaths have been attributed to COVID that had nothing to do with it, like car accidents, old age, people on hospice for 6 months. I mean, seriously? There's a problem here. There's a problem. Why am I telling you all this? People that aren't believers are curious. People that aren't believers are scared. Remember, they're controlled by fear of death. That also makes sure you have a faith problem if you're always afraid of this stuff too, but that's another point. This is the perfect opportunity for you to share the truth and point out the agenda behind what's going on so that they're prepared to meet Jesus. What is our mission? Prepare people for wholeness in Jesus through the Word of God. How do you prepare them for wholeness? You tell them they need to confess their sins. You tell them they need to commit their life to Christ. They have to call on the name of the Lord. They have to continue in Christ. We know these things. We have every opportunity to tell them that. Yep, you'll be hated. Yep, you'll be made fun of. Yep, you'll be called a cult. Yep, we'll call conspiracy theorists. You might even be lying about being investigated being a cult. And by the way, just so people are aware, it's not illegal to be a cult in America. Right or wrong, it's not illegal. Some of the actions of them can be illegal. But anybody who says Jesus first and his word first is no cult in Christianity. No cult. But if you look at the fifth level of the meaning of Merriam-Webster dictionary, it says those who promote an idea or an ideology or promulgate a cure or a thing that will heal you is considered a cult. Guess who the cult members really are? The COVID pandemic operators. Whether we like it or not. So, tell people the truth. Point them. This is leading us to a worldwide control. It's not about the virus. It's not about your safety. It's about controlling you through your fear. You may get COVID. If you're a Christian, guess where you get to go if you die? The presence of Jesus Christ himself. What are you afraid of? I'm 44 and I'm ready now. I'm more than I've ever been ready. God's given me a wonderful life on earth, and I'm going to have an awesome life in heaven. Period. I got nothing to be afraid of. The process might be a little painful. To live as Christ, suffer for Christ, that's great. To die is gain. To be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. People need to know this. There's a God. He came in the form of a man. He died for their sins. He died to free them from this type of slavery. And he wants you to be able to live with him forever. And all you got to do is say, yes, I believe. And guess what? He'll give you the ability to even do that. God, we are in prophetic regard, and we need to hear that. I want to thank you for salvation. I want to thank you. But I dare not say like the Pharisee, I'm so glad I'm not like everybody else. No. If I didn't have you, I'd be worse than everybody else. I know my heart is evil. I don't even understand it. You have revealed the things in me that needed saving. You revealed that my soul was captive to Satan. You revealed that I was self-centered and acting like the devil himself. You revealed that I was so easily deluded and duped. And then you made me a new creation. All the glory goes to you. I will claim none. You said they humbly bow before you and say, thank you for offering me the chance to confess my sins, to call on your name and be saved. Lord, I pray for this world. Not the world itself, you're making a new one, but the people in it. I know you have people here that are waiting to be saved. I know you have people that are living in fear, that want to live in faith. I know that there's people that are sinners, that are so burdened down and so scared of what's coming, that we have the message of life that comes straight from you. Help us to do that. Help us to use these prophecy points to point them to you alone, Jesus. The gospel, where you died and rose again. You died a sinner's death, capital punishment, so we could have the saint's life. In your name, Jesus, all God's people said, amen.
Thanks for listening today. This has been a Prophecy Point. I'm Pastor D.L. Barnett, the pastor of Foundations Bible Church in Winnebago, Minnesota. Remember, God loves you, and so do I.